Man, there really needs to be a figure of me. It's unfair they make figures of all the other guys except for... Well, this is quite a nice surprise.
That's right. There is finally an SH Figuarts of Ginyu, the captain of the Ginyu Force. Captain Ginyu is one of my favorite characters from the series, and his voice actor, Bryce Armstrong, was one of the reasons I really got into voice acting. This guy has so much character, so I've got to say, this figure has some pretty big boots to fill.
So will this figure be able to pose like the elite captain of the amazing Ginyu Force? Or will it make me want to change now?
Let's find out. Inside the box, we have an advertisement for Jace, who will be the next member of the Ginyu Force to join the SH Figuarts line, which is currently up for pre-order and is coming out in December of 2020. There are, of course, some instructions as well that tell you everything you need to know about attaching the accessories to this boy, so if you need those, they're there. And inside of his packaging, he's got quite a bit, so let's get working on this. Now, right out of the packaging, he looks fantastic. This is incredibly show accurate, and it's pretty darn large as well. From head to toe, Ginyu stands almost at a perfect 7 inches, which is pretty impressive. So as I said, he is rather large, but one thing that's kind of strange is that he's rather hollow as well. The figure's not completely solidly built all the way through, and I'm supposing that that makes it a little easier for them because if this thing was too heavy, he might fall over. So while that is good in some ways, it does just kind of make it feel a little bit cheaper when you're holding him in hand. But still, I can assure you that everything here looks very quality in person. He has a very matte look to his skin, which I think does help make him look more natural. The only thing that is weird though is there's like some kind of cast marks here and there, which I'm not too used to seeing on the skin. There's a little bit of it right there as well, not really a big fan of that, but ultimately this does represent the character rather well. The armor, as you can tell, has a bit more of a shine to it. His clothing seems to have a bit more gloss finish to it, except for the pauldrons, I guess you would call these little armor pads on his armor, does have a little bit more of a matte finish to it as well, so that kind of blends with his skin in a way. His horns are pretty shiny, but I think that's good because it allows them to deviate from the skin tone a lot in the way that it's textured, so I do like that. The scouter looks pretty good. It's decently transparent so you can see through it to a decent degree. It's not perfect, but it does help when you're looking up close. Now, one thing is that his joints are very shiny in comparison to his skin, so that's kind of immersion breaking, but it's really not too bad. Articulation-wise, he's pretty solid. His head is actually on a double ball joint. If you lift this up, you'll see inside here, attached to where his head is a ball joint, and that is another ball joint inside of the neck itself. So it does have some ability to move, though it is a bit limited, I'll say, for being a double ball joint, but it does do what it needs to do, I guess. Now, his neck joint has the ability to move up and down as well, and side to side even, but there is a bit of gap in there when you move it around, so that's not ideal, but it's not a deal breaker. Now, the shoulder pads actually go up and down. This one detached when I took it out of the box, but I will say that that posability there is helpful because you can then move his arm more. Now, the arm, uninhibited by that, is on a ball joint, which will allow it to go... Whoa, what the hell? Now, the arm is interesting because of the fact that it's on a ball joint right inside there, but it also has the ability to wave out on this sort of butterfly joint, I guess. Inside the shoulder, we have a similar joint which can go up and down. The arm does well to articulate, but it is just a little awkward at the shoulder, though right there at the shoulder, it also has an additional point where it can swivel. The elbow, while very large, is a double hinge which can go up on both sides and down, of course, and you can't really do anything to move that. But then at his wrist, of course, you can move his hand side to side and, of course, roll that around on a ball joint as well. Now, his chest actually has a bit of articulation there, very, very squeaky, but incredibly tight, and it does allow for some swivel, and you can even go up and down. It's not the best joint, but it does do what it needs to do, because then at his waist, he even also has a swivel right there, and a little bit of rotation as well. And of course, his armor pads can go up here as well, which will allow his very strangely segmented legs to kick up with quite a bit of squeak. And then you can even pull them all the way back, which is pretty decent articulation there, and that can of course roll around and swivel in and out as well. His leg also has this swivel right here too, which is helpful. The knee is a similar double hinge, which can do what it needs to do, folding at both points. And finally, his foot is on another sort of ball joint there, which will allow it to roll. And of course, the toe has a hinge where you can flip that upwards. Overall, rather solid articulation. And when you really look at the thing, the sculpting on this is wonderful despite all of those joints and how many different moving parts he has. That's probably one of the best parts about him, is that the sculpting is spot on. His muscles are incredibly deep cut and defined, as well as his facial features, and of course his ear and brain. All of that stuff looks super clean up close, which I am very appreciative of. There's really no shading on this guy either, but that's okay because due to his amazing sculpt, the natural shading will occur due to the way that the light falls on this thing. So you'll get a lot of great looks out of it thanks to the ability for light to just sort of bounce and roll the way that it needs to over this figure. So with articulation like that, we can certainly make him do the many goofy things the captain is expected to do. Now, of course, he comes with plenty of accessories as well, and one of those things are his heads. Now, the captain by default wears a smirk, but of course, there is a variety of expressions he comes with. Next in line will be this rather surprised and, I'm assuming, rather angry face as well. With an open mouth and wide eyes, the captain is expressing his astonishment at whatever situation he's in. But you'll notice that his ear is missing. That's because with several of the heads, you can reattach the scouter. It's a very simple fitting and it goes on rather easily, but the problem I have with it is that that's really the only way that you can display him. You could never display him without the scouter for these faces, which is kind of strange. Now I wanted to bring that up because his next face, while it's rather enraged with his narrow eyes and gritting teeth, you can see he does have an ear here. So this one you can't attach the scouter to, strangely enough, but I don't know. I guess they were banking on people not necessarily wanting the scouter for this face, which I don't really understand the logic behind, but an ear attachment would have been nice maybe for the other ones where you couldn't attach it. The final face shows him with his mouth open wide and eyes narrowed and brow furrowed, rather angrily yelling. Could it be perhaps that he is ready to change? And of course, similarly, you can attach his scouter to this face as well. So it all comes together rather nicely. But that's not all he comes with. While the captain can be seen here wearing his fists, which are the default hand accessory he wears as you take him out of the box, he of course comes with quite a variety of hands.
Come on, square up. I'll kick your ass.
One hand the captain can wear here is an open hand with his fingers spread rather wide. A great looking hand actually, nice details here with the bends for each finger, and of course even the creases on his palm. I wonder if you could do a palm reading off of this. He also comes with an included set of these chopping hands, as you can see here, which could be used for him to, of course, chop at an enemy or even maybe deliver a salute.
It's an honor working for you, Lord Frieza.
Another set of included hands is the pointing hands, which are great with a balled fist and an extended index finger. These are great for doing poses, of course, because they do so many weird little poses.
I want you to join the Ginyu Force today.
And finally, a very villainous opened clasping hand. His fingers are curled in this one rather than just being flat opened. Now you could use this for a variety of things in posing, but it's meant specifically to transition us into our next accessory. That's right, this Captain Ginyu comes with the iconic 4-star Namekian Dragon Ball. Now I say Namekian because of course the Namekian Dragon Balls are gigantic compared to the Earth Dragon Balls. These are the ones that I'm most fond of because they're just huge and glowing and beautiful, and my favorite saga is anything from Namek to Frieza, so I grew up seeing these ones the most. This thing really is sharp though. As you can see, you can actually see right through the thing. You can see Ginyu right there mirrored, which I think looks awesome. This is just wonderful. What a great little accessory. That's such a fun little trick too. But that's not all, because if you remember Ginyu for his cunning and dastardly tricks, you'll remember this scene when he punched himself through the heart, basically. For you see, if we detach his chest plate, we can attach something new. And that will be his damaged chest plate, which looks pretty decent. It's not too different from the other one, which is a little disheartening. I wish they would have made it a little opaque so that you could see the purple coming through. I remember Ginyu bleeding quite a bit through that hole, so the fact that it's just black inside is kind of annoying. I wish it was purple or something, or even kind of like gooey looking. Still, it's a nice little accessory. They didn't have to include it, but it is certainly appreciated.
Damn, this hurts. Why the hell did I do that?
But if you know Ginyu, you understand that posing is very important. So can we pull off the most important pose for Captain Ginyu, perhaps? Wide stance. Turn him around. Damn, look at that boy. He's strong. Jazz hands now. Bend over. Crunch him up. This is insane. You couldn't tell me years ago that we would be at this level of articulation today. And while it's not perfect and it's not the easiest to do, it's not terribly difficult and it's pretty damn effective. This is like his signature pose, and the fact that they were able to get this right and engineer it so well is truly magical, and I have to thank Bandai for that. And while it may look a little silly from the outside, I assure you, you are not looking at it from that angle. Will you always have him in that pose? No, but the fact that it's optional is really special. Hilariously, if you flip him over in the same position, he just kind of looks like he's maybe warding off an attack or something. Bit of a stranger danger situation if you ask me.
Lord Frieza, don't touch me there.
Okay, so now I've had time to actually play with the figure and pose it for the rest of the review. In doing so, I've learned that I love this figure for more reasons than just the aesthetic. Visually, this thing hits every bullet that we want. It's huge, its presence is very domineering, it really demands a space, and it just looks great. Put next to another SH Figuarts, it actually looks really good. Being as it's a newer figure, it of course is a lot better due to the fact that they're using newer techniques and the things that they've learned along the way to make this thing as great as they can. And ultimately, it shows. A lot of love was put into this. His expressions are great, his hands are very versatile. Despite not really digging the Scouter design on this one versus some of the other ones, I will say it's still an awesome figure, and the Scouter works just as well as it needs to. Posability wise, the more that I actually used it and posed it, the better I learned how to do so. And in the end now, I feel like I'm pretty good at posing him. The one thing that really irritates me are the flaps. The flaps of his armor are incredibly difficult to work with, and they're probably the worst thing about this figure. That being said, they do not spoil it because this thing is a joy to play with, and the poses you get it in really are just great. This thing has so much character, it really does represent the character that we love so much from the series. It has so much personality, I should say, because ultimately that's what Ginyu is, a personality, and they captured that so well with this figure. I'm going to give the SH Figuarts of Captain Ginyu here a solid 10 out of 10. I can't give it any lower a score. The things that I didn't like were so menial that I really don't think that they spoil it. Not enough for me to deduct a point and give this thing any less than perfect. This really does get me excited for the rest of the line, despite Guldo being non-posable. But what do you guys think? Was this a perfect representation of the captain, or what? Why don't you drop a comment below and let me know, and do like the video if you liked the figure or just the way that I presented this.
Remember to click one of the videos on the screen to help the channel grow. And besides all that, have an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching, and keep on collecting.